Hello, everybody, and welcome to Welding Live Art with Thea. Today, I am going to be going over some finishing processes for your metal projects. So you're going to see me finish up this stool with a chemical patina. But before I jump into that, I just want to talk about some of the different finishing processes that are available to you as a fabricator, as an artist, as a sculptor. So once you finish your metal project, you can either leave it raw if it's a type of material that doesn't rust. So essentially stainless, aluminum, different materials like that. Or you can add some type of surface treatment to finish your project and complete your project. One which is probably the most accessible is just spray painting down your project. So whenever you add a surface treatment like spray paint or something like that to your work, you always want to sand it down to rough up the surface of your material before adding on your spray paint. So spray paint is one way of finishing. You can also, if you want that kind of raw metal look, you can add just a varnish, but that can tend to chip, or even a butcher's block wax. You can just rub on butcher's wax, and that makes for a really lovely finish. If you want something that's longer lasting, you can get your piece galvanized or powder coated. Those options are more expensive finishing options, but if you are building something that needs to last for a long time outdoors, those are options that are available. My tip with powder coating and galvanized metal finishing, if you have a smaller piece, is to call up local suppliers, local powder coaters, and ask them and see if they have room in a larger batch of objects they're powder coating to slip your piece in with them. And that's a way to make it more affordable as an artist with a simple, like a smaller one-off piece as opposed to a large manufacturing line of items. Another way, which is what I'm going to be showing you how to do today, as a little finishing up of this kitchen stool that we've made over the last couple of days, is patinaing. So patina is when you actually introduce a chemical to the surface of your metal, and the metal interacts with the patina to form essentially a patina layer that will both hopefully be aesthetically pleasing and make your project look even more cool, and also it will protect your metal from the elements. So we'll protect it from rusting, stuff like that, and make sure that your piece will last forever. So those are kind of the basic different surface treatments that are available to you. I'm going to be talking you through this process, and just, we only have half an hour today, so we're just finishing up this stool that we've made, and I'm going to show it off to you guys. I'm going to first wipe it down with acetone to get it nice and clean. You want to make sure you have completely clean metal when you patina. You can even go through and sand the metal to do a physical removal of kind of the surface layer of your metal. We aren't bothering to do that today. Acetone will do it fine for us. So a full clean of the piece. You might be able to see I started some of the patina last night with a demo over here. So I'm just going to clean the rest of the piece. And then I'm actually going to heat up my piece of metal. As you all probably know, kinetic energy and reactions happen faster when things are warm. So oftentimes patinas work better when your material is warm. So I'm just going to use this propane torch right here to heat up my metal and hopefully cause a really cool looking patina reaction. I'm just using a propane torch for this as opposed to my big oxyacetylene setup because I just want to warm up my metal. that oxyacetylene flame gets to 6,000 degrees. And so if I use that trying to heat up my metal to patina it, I risk overheating my metal and ending up warping or distorting my metal, which would be very disappointing given all of the work I did to keep it square and straight. So I'm going to get to cleaning this piece. If you have any questions about finishing metal techniques or other types of metal fabrication techniques, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'll be checking in to try to answer all your questions. We'll see how fast the metal patina goes. If anyone out there is really wanting to see a couple weld beads laid down, I still have my welder here too, and I can do some beads on the scrap metal to show you. I have one question coming in now. Fantastic question. What's a good way to start learning welding? Which would you recommend if one is just starting, TIG or MIG? So a good way to start learning how to weld is looking in your community and seeing if there's any types of maker spaces or community metal shops, maker shops in your area. Since kind of the maker movement and maker community has become more popular over the last couple of years, and the introduction of fab labs and MIT's fab labs throughout the world, there are a lot more opportunities out there actually for different types of community metal shops to join up and take a class. It can be tough in some places because some places only have like a vocational training where you go and take like 3-month-long class. And so if that's your community or that's kind of what's nearby you, I would recommend contacting local metal shops to see if any of the people who work there teach on the side, because a lot of people do that. But I would say in a lot of the larger cities, maker spaces are booming, and there are a lot of amazing opportunities for community metal shops, different types of STEAM education, and learning all processes of fabrication. So check out your local makerspace, and hopefully there's some good classes there for you to get you started. I would recommend starting learning MIG welding. MIG welding is the most accessible type of metal welding to learn. It's much more straightforward than TIG welding, and it gives you an ability to learn and understand the process of what's happening when you're welding, and it gives you a chance to watch the puddle, understand the arc, understand the helmet, because there's a lot going on in a steep learning curve right at the beginning. So if you start off with MIG, it's an easier process. You can get comfortable with that, know more what's going on. And so then when you jump into TIG, which is takes a lot more kind of fine motor control and skills, you'll be ready, you'll understand more about the process, and you'll be able to jump into that better. I have taught people TIG who have never welded at all before, and you can do it that way, but starting with MIG gives you a big leg up, so I highly recommend that. Okay, I'm gonna start cleaning. Let me know if you have follow-up questions, anything I just said, and let's do this. Great, so you can see this kitchen stool that I have made over the past couple of days that I'm cleaning now. And speaking of just MIG and TIG welding, I used both processes on this stool. This stool is made out of mild steel. I didn't need to use both processes. I could have just chosen one or the other, but for the purposes of demonstration, I wanted to show y'all both. And so it's a mix of MIG beads and TIG beads. Since it's mild steel, I had that option. If this were stainless steel or aluminum or titanium or something like that, then I would have had to only use TIG welding, because TIG welding is what you use for exotic metals. If any of you were with me yesterday watching me do the fabrication of this piece, you might notice that the bottom looks a little bit thicker now. I added, lift this up, maybe you can see it better. I added some strips of flat bar around the bottom of this piece. I just wanted it to have a little bit more weight on the bottom. Always good for furniture to have it heavier on the bottom. And it also can make sure that the piece is going to sit completely level, because it's just sitting along an edge as opposed to sitting on tubing. We call this a skirt, adding a skirt onto your furniture project in the industry. And so I just want to point that out. It's a great technique to make sure your piece, is very sturdy, sits levelly on the floor. And I actually like the aesthetics of it. I think it looks really clean. All right. I think that's clean enough for our purposes. So I'm just going to start heating up my metal and applying my patina. I'm using a very traditional patina called Japanese brown. It's going to chemically interact with my steel, and it turns this nice kind of golden, dappled bronze color, which is really beautiful. It's one of my favorites. Can y'all see that pretty well? I had a quick question come in. Is it safe to wear a scarf while welding? And the answer is no, but since I am not welding right now, I am wearing a scarf because it happens to be a very cold morning in LA, and I was not prepared for that. So since I'm just doing finishing techniques, I can wear whatever I want. But when you're welding, or especially using tools that rotate, you definitely don't want to wear anything that dangles. A big culprit for this is sweatshirts and those little ties that come off the sweatshirt hood, because that's a lot of people wear sweatshirts in the metal shop. So definitely nothing that dangles while you're welding or using rotating tools. Since I'm just doing painterly surface treatments, I can wear whatever I want. So another question that came in, do you participate in any art shows in the LA area? I have shown in art shows around LA. I did a lot more gallery shows and fine art stuff when I first moved here. And then since doing a couple of shows, I kind of moved more into the performance art direction. So now I do custom metal work and also a lot of performance art. So essentially, for my personal work, I build large-scale installations and sculptures that I often climb on and perform on. Before I became a welder and full-time artist, I actually toured professionally with the circus. And so my background is as a physical performer, and I incorporate that with my metal work. If you see me doing a show, it's often at events like LA Design Festival and stuff like that. So hopefully you guys are able to see the kind of steam I'm getting rising off the hot metal and this beautiful, beautiful coppery mottled bronze color that I'm getting all across my metal. I'm going to keep going with the patina, and hopefully there'll be enough time in the last couple minutes for you to watch me rub some boiled linseed oil onto this, and I'll talk more about what that is in a little bit. Get up. I'm so happy with how this patina is coming out. All right, I have a couple new questions that came in. So let's see. What am I doing, spraying, etc.? I am putting a patina on this kitchen stool that I spent the past couple of sessions showing y'all how to make. So I am heating it up with a propane torch to make it so I can activate that chemical reaction with the patina faster. So I'm heating it up and then I'm spraying the patina onto it, and I'm kind of just letting the patina drip dry because I like that mottled texture, that painterly texture the drip dry gives it. You can also brush patinas on or wipe them on with a cloth. and your application method of the patina will be reflected in the final work. Let's see, can you summarize your design and build process from start to finish? Design goal, choice of materials, and method of execution. Safety is foremost. Thank you for your tips and tricks. Your sessions will be memorable. I'm so happy to hear it. I've had such a blast doing these, and it's been just so much fun being able to interact with you all. So my design and build process from start to finish, it really depends on the type of piece I'm making. If I'm doing something a little bit more artistic and kind of bendy with oxyacetylene, there's slightly less design on the front side of it, but I tend to do a lot of drawings and kind of figure out the design structure and process for almost anything I'm doing. So it usually starts with loose sketches in my sketchbook, figuring out the concept. And then I start to do to-scale drawings. I love hand drafting. My father is actually an archaeologist, and he taught me how to hand draft at drafting tables when I was young, and that's a technique that's stuck with me. So I'll hand draft to-scale drawings and start doing a lot of the engineering. I spend a lot of time on McMaster-Carr's website, kind of scrolling through, looking at different types of fasteners, joiners, because a lot of my sculptures are kinetic and end up moving around. So basically figuring out the specifications. One thing that I like about sculpture and working with physical processes and materials is that it provides a framework that you have to work within. So I can make a lot of different things out of mild steel, but the melting point of mild steel will always be the same, as will its strength, as will its tensile strength. So having to design within those parameters is one of the parts I like best. So, and then I order materials and start mocking everything up. It's pretty much laying everything out, cutting everything, prepping everything, tack welding everything up. It's funny because your job as a sculptor who works in metal, people think that you're welding all the time, but welding is probably 10% of what you do, and the rest of the time is cutting, measuring, prepping, designing, engineering, stuff like that, setting everything up so that you can do your welds. Let's see. What is your favorite material to sculpt with? Ooh, that's a tough one. So I love casting. So if I'm doing actual metal sculpture, I really do love bronze casting and aluminum casting. So I'll make a positive, I'll make a mold, and then I'll pour that. And then you're able to make chasing tools and really kind of sculpt with those materials, especially the bronze. It's softer material. So if I'm kind of doing a total kind of cast sculpture, I would say I really love working with bronze. It's such a strong and amazing material and can take so many patinas, and it's naturally beautiful. In terms of other stuff, I really love stainless steel. I love working with stainless. I love the challenges of it. I love the finish of it. My dream one day is to be able to make an aerial sculpture in titanium. Titanium is an amazing material. A little out of my price range to make a full large aerial sculpture out of right now, but it's a fascinating material. It's very fun to weld. It's quite challenging. So I really love the technical challenges and what it offers, which is very strong and lighter than steel. Can you adjust the color through heat? Yes, you can. So generally the color will be more intense and darker the more heat I apply. That only goes so far. So you can actually layer this patina over and over again if you want to get into like a deeper bronze as opposed to the lighter copper color. So both through heat and also through layering the patina. Okay. right. I'm going to pick this up and bring it a little bit closer to the screen. So hopefully you just get a look at that beautiful copper color that's developing on this patina. We're going to run out of time, so I'm not going to be able to rub the boiled linseed oil on camera. But I wanted to let you know what that was. So once you're finished with your patina, rubbing some type of oil, you can also use wax over it. I really like the boiled linseed oil because it is actually an oil that hardens into almost like a varnish after 24 hours. So it's going to give my patina that deep shine to bring out that beautiful copper color. And after 24 hours, I'll still actually probably rub like a little bit of a paste wax on it just to give that extra kind of shiny luster to this piece. But in the last minute of this piece, I'm going to move this to the floor and put the piece of wood in it so that you guys can see it in all of its glory. So here is the piece. Hopefully you can see not all of the patina was finished, but this kind of beautiful coppery painterly color here that's all up along. And you can imagine once that has an oil on it, how beautiful and kind of shiny it's going to be. So put that back there. I'm going to tilt you guys down so you can see the floor more easily. Throw my wood in and voila! We have a kitchen stool. Hopefully you guys can kind of see that. I really like the geometry of this and the perfect height for sitting at your kitchen island or something. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute joy to be able to talk to you guys about art and sculpture and metalwork. Connect with me on Instagram. My Instagram is at Thea Ulrich, my first name and my last name. Share projects with me, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day wherever you are. Thanks so much.